And welcome to week number 6, Delaware Sports Live Pigskin Picks. This week joining us is our own Nick Alessandrini. Nick, welcome on to this year's picks.
Hey, Benny, Trey, appreciate it. It's great to be back on. We had a decent week last year, so I'm excited to get back. There's been some good performances though this year.
Oh,
So
Jason Winchell just rocked it, man. It goes 8-0, never been done before. So you gotta run the table to catch up with Jason.
yeah,
He hasn't even reserved to the bunker yet. I mean, it's only week 6. He
he's
doesn't go to
hot.
the bunker for a couple weeks. Well, let's get it started. Friday night, 6 o'clock. Middletown versus Hodgson. It's homecoming, but the game at Caravel. 4-1 versus 4-1. Trey Mitchell, who do you have in this one?
Um, Middletown versus Hodgson, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Hodgson's lone loss, it came to number 1 of Class AA. They can put points on the board, and they're quietly moving up the rankings. Middletown's definitely the top team in the state, and they're loaded on both sides of the ball. I think it's going to be Middletown here.
Nick, Middletown squeaks out one last week against Smyrna. Who do you got in this?
I had a chance to do that game actually, the Trey reference between Hodson and Caravel. That was a good game. Hodson looked good in that game against Caravel. Caravel returned 2 punts for touchdowns. That ended up being the difference there. But I'm gonna go with Trey here as well. I'm gonna lean Middletown in this one. Hodson's a good team. There'd be a lot of weeks and matchups where I would lean Silver Eagles. This week, just not one of them. I'm gonna go with the Middletown Cavaliers.
Hodgson, they're the one team that was able to slow down, not only slow down, shut down Markai James of Cape and Open, that big 35-0 loss. But there's just not one guy you can shut down at Middletown. I think this is going to be a close game. I was a little bit, I had Middletown winning, and had Middletown winning 14-12. I thought that game was a little too close for comfort, but I have Middletown winning this, and I'm going to say within a couple scores. I think this is going to be a game late. Let's move to Saturday. Tatnall, the number 1 ranked team in Single A versus Tower Hill. It's homecoming at Tower Hill, and this is an old independent conference game. Trey Mitchell, who do you have in this one?
Yeah, Tatnall, they're coming in on a 4-game win streak, and they're scoring 43.5 points a game over those past 4 games. But they got a big test for this Class AA, Tower Hill. The Hillers have an impressive win over Newark, and then last week over Mount Pleasant, who also beat Newark. Like you said, it's an all independent conference game. I'm going to take Tower Hill at home on homecoming here.
And Nick Alessandrini.
Tatnall is a team that I've had a chance to check out the last few years, and they've got a lot of talent over there. Rayshawn Lamons is one of my favorite players, to watch, whether that be highlights or up close and personal when I do those games. Tatnall is really, taken leaps and bounds over the last couple of years and getting better and better. But again, I'm going to lean Tower Hill. Trey talked about the schedule. Homecoming, they're going to bring that extra juice this week, Spirit Week, etc., getting ready for it. This is going to be another good one. I talked about week 6 is a little tough here, but I'm going to lean Tower Hill in this one.
I'm a good Tower Hill. I think Tatnall, they need to be tested yet. And they got some tests coming up. They still have St. Elizabeth to go, and they still have Brandywine to go. I think this is a test that they need heading into those district games. I'm taking Tower Hill at home and to move to 5-1. 2, 3, and 2 teams Friday, 7 o'clock at the Graveyard is Appo versus St. Mark's. Trey Mitchell, who do you got in this?
Yeah, St. Mark's are kind of having a Jekyll and Hyde season. They dominate Red Lion, but then last week their offense sputtered against Kate. They're just kind of hard to get a gauge on right now. And Appo's kind of similar, but one thing is the Jaguars are going to give you 48 minutes of football, and they play with a next man up mentality. I'm leaning towards St. Mark's here. I think they get a turnaround after the letdown last week. I like St. Mark's at home.
Nick, old Sparty Old Sparty sputtered last week. Who do you got in this one?
He did. It was a tough one for the Spartans last week. And then I did that Red Lion game where they looked really good. I know they've been missing some people there on the back end for St. Mark's. Appo, what a performance they put on last week. Again, Trey talked about a next man up. They've looked really good. St. Mark's, though, has them at the Graveyard, and it'd be wrong to go against my boys over there at St. Mark's. So I'm gonna be with Trey again here and lean the Spartans over Appo. But again, that's gonna be another great game, and Appo, a really good team. So it could go either way, but I'm gonna lean St. Mark's.
St. Mark's outgained Cape significantly last Friday night. They just couldn't find the end zone. Appo out of nowhere, 18 unanswered. And we're going to talk about that again later on the picks. against a strong Sussex Central defense. I got to pick an upset somewhere this week. I'm going to go with this one. I think Appo goes up there and steals one and puts themselves in a really good position in that District 1 when we come tournament time. So I'm going to take the Jaguars. Saturday at noon, always a tough place to play, is that noon game at St. George's. It's 5-0, Dover versus 2-3, St. George's. No Jaquan Kilby in this game. Trey Mitchell, who do you got?
Dover's 5-0, and they're one of only two teams in the state that are undefeated at this point. I know we like to talk about Dover's offense, and it's explosive. Losing Kilby is definitely going to hurt it a little bit, but it's still explosive offense. But their defense is only allowing 12 points per game. St. George's are coming in 2-3, but there's losses for ranked teams. They've been hanging around late in games, with the exception of that Sally's game. I think it's going to be kind of close, actually, with St. George's hanging around, but I think Dover finds a way to get it done.
Nick, St. George's, like Trey said, they keep it close. That's how they got the late win. I think they beat William Penn on the last play of the game. Who do you have in this one?
I gotta love what John Wilson has done over there the last couple of years, and Trey's absolutely right. They will battle, the entire game long, and we've seen since he's been there that program continue to get better each and every year. I just think Dover's got too much firepower. And again, it's such a shame to lose Kilby. And again, to be determined his status the rest of the year, I believe. But one of the best players in the state, one of the most fun players to watch in the state. So that's just a loss, not only for Dover, but everyone here in Delaware that had a chance to check him out. But I'm still going to lean on Cosme and company here for Dover. I think they're going to get the win. But again, Coach Wilson doing a great job over there at St. George's. And as Trey said, they battle each and every week. So expect this one to be another good one. I think Dover comes out on top.
The 130th playing of the Seaford Laurel game coming up. Seaford is 62, or Seaford leads the series 67-52 with 10 ties. This year, Seaford coming in 4-2, Laurel coming in 2-3. Game is at Laurel. Trey, who you got in this big rivalry?
Yeah, it's one of Delaware's always the biggest rivalries. Seaford, they bounced back after their first loss to First State Military Academy. And they got a big win over previously ranked number 2 Indian River. Again, they're stepping into this long-time rivalry game, and Laurel got upset last week against Woodbridge, and it drops to number 6 in the AA rankings. Does Seaford keep it rolling, or does Laurel bounce back big? I think Laurel at home, they bounce back big.
Nick, last week was not a good week for the number 2s.
And we haven't seen, a lot of those out of the Laurel Bulldogs, especially in the last few years. Not a lot of mistakes made during the regular season. Back-to-back 1A champs. They go up this year, and again, they look decent. Again, that tough schedule for those guys, up a new class this year. But again, me and Trey are thinking a lot alike tonight. I'm going to go with Laurel over Seaford here, and should be another good one.
Going back to the beginning of the season, Seaford's first loss was a 1-score loss to Woodbridge late in the game. And then they fell to First State Military Academy, a game that they were leading in the fourth quarter. I think they've learned a lot from that loss at First State Military Academy, because they shut the Indian River offense down. Indian River scored, but it was a defensive touchdown. Laurel on a 19-game win streak. Like I said, Seaford leads the series 67-52 with 10 ties. Laurel with the longest win streak, and they extend that win streak this week. I got Laurel at home in the rivalry game, the 130th playing. Laurel takes this one. Another tough one coming up. You're right, Nick. These were not easy picks.
It's a tough week.
Big single A game. 6 o'clock at Indian River. Brandywine comes to town. Both teams 3-2. Trey, who do you got?
Yeah, it's probably the biggest Class A game of the year. We have another team in bounce back mode in Indian River. They got upset on the road at Seaford last week, but they're solid. They got 2 good running backs in Javion Chandler and Devon Handy. But Brandywine, they got Kriston Wright. He's a huge weapon at quarterback. He was getting it done through the air, lighting it up, and now he's getting it done with his legs. And Indian River has to find a way to contain him. Again, I think Indian River bounced back here, and they get a big win at home.
Nick, the Bulldogs coming down from almost the second furthest North school in the state.
Yeah.
Coming down to almost one of the further south. Big long trip, probably an hour and a half trip for Brandywine, and they don't come to Sussex County much. Who you got?
Yeah, and that could be a factor. I know traffic and all that on a Friday or Saturday, whatever day you head in that direction, you're gonna maybe meet some traffic. So the trip is a factor in it all. Um, Indian River at home, but this is gonna be the first time I think me and Trey differ here. I'm gonna go with Brandywine making the trip down and getting the victory against Indian River. But again, continuing a very tough week 6. Guys, thanks for having me on week 6 this week.
Right. Crisden Wright. I'm a Crisden Wright fan. I've only got to see him on film. I want to see him in person before the season ends. He can throw. He can run. He is a threat. He's a kid that's like coming in under the radar and yeah, playing at Brandywine. But there's going to be a big matchup there this week. You got the arm of Crisden Wright versus Darnell Stokes, who is just the stalker, and he's got what 2 pick sixes, handful of interceptions. I think Indian River gets this done. This one might go to overtime. I think we're talking maybe a 21-20 game. So special teams will be huge in this one, but I'm taking Indian River at home. And the first of the 2 games we have on downstate this week, who had Milford and Woodbridge at 4-1 coming into week 6? Milford travels down to Woodbridge, 7:00 kickoff. Trey, who do you have?
Yeah, Milford, they got 2-man running attack in Daenerys Horsey and Charles Shorts. They both have a combined 1,000 yards this season, which is like 7% of their rushing offense. And Woodbridge defense was impressive last week, holding Laurel to 1 score. When Laurel was driving late in that game, Woodbridge took a bend don't break approach. Like you said, back in August, I don't think we had these 2 teams coming in at 4-1. I like Woodbridge here again. I like them at home. I think the defense held up good last week, and I think their offense is going to continue to score. Their defense will continue to hold up, and Woodbridge wins this game.
It's Coach Preston Grace night. He former assistant coach, passed away earlier this year. So going to be a lot in those stands. It's almost like the Troy Haynes support. We saw a little bit of that last week. Starting to see the 4s going back in the air at Woodbridge. Who do you have here, Nick?
Another good one, right? Jed Bell over there at Milford, Woodbridge, and Coach Dooley. I'm going to go with, just a few years ago, was Woodbridge playing in that state championship game at the University of Delaware. Again, both of these teams having great rebound years here in 2023. I'm going to go with the home team in this one and go Woodbridge.
Yeah, like I said earlier, who had these 2 teams at 4-1? A win, whoever wins this game is sitting pretty for the postseason. They'll have 2 wins in a very deep and tough District 3 at a Class AA. Class AA, I think, just the most competitive class of the 3. Jed Bell comes in. He puts in, first thing he does, he puts in the wing tee. That's a feather in your cap right there, and they're running it well. They have had a couple stumbles this year, but the last 2 weeks, they're putting points on the board. So it's Horsey and Shorts versus the Woodbridge defense. I don't know if you got to see the game last week, Nick. Cameron Johnson was a problem on the defensive line. He was player of the game playing defensive tackle. 2 scooping scores. 1, he batted down the toss, picked it up and ran it in. I'm going Woodbridge at home. Their defense is just playing too tough right now. Neither team with much of a passing game. So I kind of got to get the edge of the home team there and go Woodbridge at home. And our final game of the night, and this is another game I didn't think we saw as being a big week 6 game, but it is now. Friday night, 7:00. It's Cape and Lopin versus Sussex Central, the 55th meeting between these 2 teams. Cape and Lopin 4-1, Sussex Central 3-2. Trey, who do you got?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's a big game. It's already a rivalry game, and now there's even more on the line. This is the District 2 opener for both teams. That means they still have Smyrna, Dover, and St. George's to play. Central is known for their strong defense, but this week they faced Markai James. He's one of the best backs in the state. And Cape's going to get tested by Central's wing T offense with Kevon Brittle back there, averaging 8.8 yards a carry. Like you said, this is a much tougher game now than I thought it was 6 weeks ago. But I don't pick against Central at home. I'm going Sussex Central. Big
District border here, Nick. I know you're more of a Newcastle County guy, but these 2 districts border each other. This game, 55th time they've met. Back in the 80s, this was a Week 10 rivalry. Through the early to late 80s, this game started getting out of hand with some fights. So they had to go hide it in the middle of the season and hope they kept the tempers down. So that kind of tells you what kind of environment you're walking into, Nick? Who do you got?
And this is one I've been going back and forth with, for most of the day today. But I'm going to lead the home team, go with the Castle there. Sussex Central looking to rebound after that tough one last week. And then the opposite for Cape Henlopen coming off a big win, up north, and now going to be head over to Sussex Central, a little bit more close to home for them there. So it's going to be a great game. I'm going to lead the Golden Knights of Sussex Central in a close one in that game of the week.
Capes won in 2013 and 2016. That was their last 2 wins. Over the last 20 years, Sussex Central was 18-2 in this series. Mark-I James was big again last week. They're going to be looking. They're going to have to ride that horse. I mean, that kid, he's headed to JMU. You got to feed your dog in this game. Central led. Here's my biggest concern. Number one is picking against Central at home, and they had a 30-13 lead. Fourth quarter against Apo. Apo scored 18 unanswered in the fourth quarter to win 31-30. But with that wing tee, Central had 4 different people score. It's luau night in Sussex Central. And I'm going to go with the Knights at home. The Knights are going to defend the Castle on Friday night, albeit in a close game. I'm going Sussex Central on luau night. So, Nick, what do you got this week? I know you got Delaware on Saturday. What do you have? Anything for us this week?
Yeah, so Thursday, the crew is going to be doing a gamer themselves. I can't make that one, unfortunately. So it's still to be determined. But Friday, we're thinking about if we can get a crew together for Odessa and Friends. That's kind of up in the air right now. So we're working to see if we can get some people there, depending on who's going where this week. But Delaware's got North Carolina A&T at home today, finishing off that 5 weeks in a row being at the Tub. So going to be a good one there. Hopefully they can keep it rolling. Now up to number 8 in the new FCS stats poll. So they keep climbing the ranks there. And then hopefully we'll have a little Odessa Friends on Friday night, but to be determined.
What's the game you're looking at this week, Nick? The big game this week throughout the state.
You know what? I'm gonna go with your game of the week, or the game of the week here for Cape Henlopen and Sussex Central. I think that's going to be a really good one. And we talked about what both teams did last weekend, and now Sussex Central gets to get to the Castle here and try to rebound against Mark-I James and a very good Cape Henlopen team. So that's going to be a really good one. And then the one that we picked earlier, I think St. Mark's Appoquinimink, just from a playoff perspective, St. Mark's right now kind of on the outside looking in with the way that things have been going the last couple of weeks. So this would be a huge win for the Spartans at home in the Graveyard if they can get one over Apo.
Right, separation week. Teams are now they're 3-2, they're 2-3. You don't want that 4th loss. You don't want that 3rd loss. What game stands out to you as that could look back later in the season and say that's one we should have had?
Well, yeah, the Cape Central one I think is definitely going to be one of those. But I'm looking at this little Class A here. This Brandywine Indian River really caught my eye. I think Indian River dropping that to Seaford last week. It makes this game. It was already a big game before week 5. I think it's even bigger. It's even more important to both teams. So definitely tune into that one.
I think you're right. I think all 3 agree. The Class 3A Sussex Central Cape Henlopen game's big. I've got 2, and I think they have huge district implications. The first one is Woodbridge and Milford. The winner goes to 2-0 in District 3. And we look at the teams that they have left. That's the old Henny South. There's still Delmar, Lake Forest in there. Milford still has to play Laurel. So there's big games to go down the road for those 2. And then the Brandywine Indian River. The winner here moves to first place in District 2 in Class A. I think going back to that Cape Central game, I think a loss here hurts either team because this is the opener for District 2. You still got Smyrna, Dover, and St. George's to play at the end of the season, and that's a gauntlet right there for either team, especially if you're walking in with 2, maybe 3 losses already. Maybe hate to say must win, but maybe must win when we get to week 10 and we look back. So back to your Hens. Saw you down there on the sideline, Nick, on that goal line stand.
Oh yeah,
I thought you were going to go in there and defend there. You're right on the back line of the end zone. I thought you were going to go in there and fill B-gap.
I'll tell you, I miss it. It's like instincts kick in, right? My linebacker stuff takes over. I should have got in there, but with the way Manny Rojas coaches that defense, he's got me fired up 24/7 down there on the sideline. That's for sure.
He brings a lot of energy to the Blue. And of course, Canty is really the offensive coordinator. He's very involved in the offense, and he's high energy as well. And
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
they filled the tub last week. I think they filled the tub again this week, although we're expecting more rain on Saturday.
I'm telling you, back-to-back Saturdays makes it a little tougher on the sideline with all that rain.
Three
That's
in
right.
a
I mean,
row.
now 3 in a row. New Hampshire was a monsoon for a little part of that game. A little rain this week, and now again here tomorrow or on Saturday, excuse me. So yeah, the rain and the weather hasn't been great this year. But if Delaware can keep pulling out some wins, we'll live with it.
That's your week 6 picks here on Delaware Sports Live. Tune into the show tomorrow night, live from Buffalo Wild Wings. I think we're in Newark tomorrow night. And then 2 Thursday games and possibly 3 Friday games. I'm sorry, 2 Friday games possibly. And then Glenn Frazier will have Smyrna Caesar Rodney on Saturday morning. So that's a wrap for Nick Allison, Drini, and Trey Mitchell. I'm Benny Mitchell, and we'll see you at kickoff.